Hello everybody, welcome to Also Rossi Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. I am trying to hit 100k subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, so your subscription will be much appreciated. Also drop a like, YouTubers ask for it. YouTubers ask for it for a reason. Helps the video do better. Anyways, hot takes, let's get into it. The greatest peak of all time was Tim Duncan's peak from 99 to 2005, considering he won 3 titles with less help compared to the other top 10 players of all time. I would be inclined to agree that Duncan's peak in that time period is up there with some of the best, but I wouldn't quite say it is the best, even though, yes, there might be some validity to the argument that he won the most with the least of any top 10 player. At the same time, there is also something to be said for putting up numbers that are outlandish, and the one thing that you can knock Tim Duncan for as a talent was that, especially in the point per game department, his numbers were not always the craziest in the world, and that goes to say that's the same case for 99 through 2005. Even though he has multiple instances of crazy numbers, it's not really something that he did all the time. In terms of impact, it's definitely up there, but I would just lean towards a few different examples being a bit more impressive, like LeBron's peak from like 2013 to 2018, or Michael Jordan's from like 89 to 1993. I almost said 2003. So yeah, I would lean towards those examples before Tim Duncan, but Tim Duncan's definitely up there for sure. If the small ball / Westbrook Rockets played the Nuggets or the Clippers in the second round instead of the Lakers, they make the Western Conference Finals. I mean, you can make similar arguments in all kinds of playoff matchups. I just wanted to mention this one because I'm glad people are still talking about that Rockets team, because I think there was actually a lot of validity to that small ball experiment that they went to, and I will eventually make a video on it because I truly believe that team had what it took. It's just the Lakers were kind of a matchup nightmare, and Russell Westbrook was injured in that series, so yeah, just heads up, look out for that eventually. Anthony Davis's offensive game is overrated. Outside of being a lob threat, he's really not elite or dominant at anything on the offensive end of the court. Defensively, he's one of the greatest ever when he puts his mind to it. I would lean towards yes, there is some validity to this argument, just simply because if you look at the numbers, like his mid-range shooting ability, Anthony Davis is not an elite mid-range shooter percentage-wise. Sure, for a big man, he has impressive moves from mid-range, but he's like 41% from 10 to 16 feet for his career and 37% from 16 feet to the three-point line. So that's going against him. He is, which, you know, those are not terrible percentages, but they're not really good either. For the volume he takes, I would lean towards AD as a good mid-range shooter, but elite, definitely not. Obviously not an elite three-point shooter. I don't know why people sometimes act like he is. Like, the best he's done is 33% from 3 on low volume. And I will say his post-game and his interior play outside of just being a lob threat is definitely in the elite territory. So it's not just the lob threat. There's also the fact that he can score in the paint relatively effectively, though I do think he does not assert himself enough, which is my biggest grievance with Anthony Davis. But overall, yeah, his offensive game is a little bit overrated, and that's why I've always been lower on Anthony Davis than most people. And even defensively, sometimes I feel like he's a little overhyped, but not to the extent that his offense can be. So yeah. Nikola Jokic is not only the best passing center in the league, that should be obvious, but he is the best passer in the league, period, because he averages 8 assists as a center without being nearly as ball dominant as a point guard. Well, while I do agree with the statement that Jokic is the best passer in the league, I would not go as far as to say it's just because he averages 8 assists without dribbling, because that's very flawed logic, and assists per game is not really a great indicator of passing ability all the time. John Stockton. And that actually sounded like a real sneeze. That was crazy. It's supposed to sound like a cough, not a sneeze. Whatever. That's what came out of my face. Weird sentence. But Jokic is definitely the most efficient and most impactful passer in the league, just because he has a very good assist-to-turnover ratio. He does not dribble the ball, as mentioned, so the offense doesn't get bogged down with his playmaking in any capacity. And he just makes the right pass all the time, and I've never seen an offensive system effectively rely on one man's playmaking as much as the Nuggets have with Jokic's, and it's really good. And Jokic's playmaking is still somehow underappreciated. Russell Westbrook should come off of the bench for the Lakers. No, I think you can make an argument that the Lakers should try and stagger, and I would make this argument as well, that they should try and stagger Russell Westbrook and LeBron James minutes as much as possible to get them both playing without each other as much as possible. But that said, there's a strong difference between that and him coming off of the bench. Really, the guys that should be closing the game should be the both of them, and that's really what matters. But I don't see the argument for Russell Westbrook coming off of the bench, but thank you for the good title. Kristaps Porzingis would be a better basketball player if he was 8 or 9 inches shorter, as odd as that sounds. I don't know about that. I definitely think he would be criticized significantly less, and there's something to be said for the coordination that would come with him being that size. I've said there's something to be said like 10 times in this video. I sound like Nicholas. Motown Noah, if you don't know that his name is Nicholas. But I do think he'd be criticized less. I don't know that he'd be a better player, though, which important distinction. Juan Toscano-Anderson is Golden State's X Factor. You know, I would not go as far as to say, that's another thing I've said a bunch of times, that Juan Toscano-Anderson is the Warriors' X Factor. I think that's probably like Otto Porter or Jordan Poole. But at the same time, maybe James Wiseman, but at the same time, Juan Toscano-Anderson is very important to that Warriors team and an underappreciated player at that. So just look out for him because he's pretty fucking talented. He's a good defensive player, hits his threes, good finisher, and really, really good playmaker for the role that he plays. So shout out Juan Toscano-Anderson. Kyle Lowry on the Heat makes the Heat a top 3 team in the East. You know, I don't know that the Heat are going to necessarily have the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference, but I would definitely agree that they are the 3rd best team in the Eastern Conference after the Bucks and the Nets, if that was not obvious. Rusty Buckets could have gone to the NBA if he didn't stop growing at the 8th grade. At the 8th grade, that sounds weird. I'm just mentioning this because I don't know, most of you guys do not follow me on Twitter. How many of you know the fact that I'm 6'3" now. I was 6'1" when I was in 8th grade, and I thought I was going to be a whole lot taller, and I just grew 2 more inches over the entirety of high school. So that's really fucking depressing. So I don't think I would have gone to the NBA, but my odds would have been a lot higher because I think most people who are 6'1" when they're 11 or 12 end up being a little bit taller than I am now. Still tall, but not as much as I'd like. Scotty Barnes, in the future, can elevate a team like Draymond Green in certain team situations, or even better. Scotty is definitely a Swiss Army knife forward. Draymond is just such a uniquely impactful player that I would be hesitant to say that with confidence. That said, Scotty Barnes in the preseason has looked amazing, and I definitely think he has that potential. I just wouldn't outright say that that's definitely going to happen or anything like that, but he has the potential for sure. His playmaking is fantastic. His defense is great. His length is crazy. And the finishing and the jump shot looks passable. So yeah, I think he's going to be very fucking good. And he's currently like my favorite rookie that I've seen in the preseason thus far. Anyways, that was NBA Hot Takes. Goodbye.